This is Dr. Stephanie Wautier, and I am the host of Conversations with a Chiropractor. If you have been following along, then you know this is not a health how-to. This is not instructions on how to care for your spine. Conversations with a Chiropractor is a fireside chat, a little bit like Tuesdays with Maury, a little bit like chicken soup for your soul. Sit back, grab a cup of coffee, and listen to this inspirational conversation. In this episode of Conversations with a Chiropractor, I sit down with one of my college roommates, Susan, who had just returned from Haiti when we met. Susan goes on to become a female pastor, which is controversial for some, but I have never heard a more beautiful description of the balance between male and female roles in the church. Prepare to be inspired as you listen to this conversation. And if you'd like to find me on Instagram, Dr. Stephanie Wautier, Facebook, Wautier Wellness Chiropractic, and our website, wautierwellness.com. Susan, thank you so much for being on my podcast, Conversations with a Chiropractor.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here.
So it is 2024, and we met each other in the 90s, right?
Right. What year was it that we met?
It was probably like 93 or 4.
Okay.
And you were just getting back from Haiti. You had been a missionary in Haiti. Tell me how you got to Haiti as a young woman.
I don't know if I was exactly a missionary. I mean, most people going to a foreign country would be seen as a missionary if they're going to live on a Christian compound and spend time there. But I really was more missioned by them, I think, than a missionary. So I was in my second year of college, and I had gone just on a short-term trip to Haiti. And I'd met this indigenous Haitian missionary couple that had a Christian compound there running. Basically, it used to be for drug addicts and alcoholics to come and rehab. And then they had gradually turned it more into a place for families to come and live. They were improving the land, building buildings. They were building a well. They were doing things to kind of revive the whole area. And trees were growing, planting trees, stuff like that. So they were all living there together. I went on a mission trip, just a quick, short one. And I was so impressed by them and so amazed by their faith being, it seemed like their faith was simple and strong. Like they believed that God would provide for them. They believed for God to work in their lives in so many different ways that growing up in a Christian school and Christian church, I think I believed a lot about God, but I don't think I believed that he was so personally interactive with me or with people. I just thought he was sort of sovereign over everything, kind of doing his thing without the big guy in the sky, right?
Yeah.
Sovereign somehow, so that I knew that he had my good, in mind, but I didn't know that he personally listened to my prayers really so much or cared about my everyday life. And they brought God into everything. Like I was walking up a hill with them and they were like teaching me about God walking with us. And they would talk about God constantly. Their worship was really awesome. So anyway, I went back to school, but my heart was still there. And I thought, I just want to learn more about that. I want to be more like them, So I think I was just really searching for a faith that was more real or personal or something.
Because how were you raised? What denomination of Christianity?
I was Lutheran. My dad was Lutheran, so we went to Lutheran church. My mom was Christian Reformed, which is like a Dutch Protestant, kind of Presbyterian-ish denomination. And so we went to Christian schools for the Christian Reformed Church, her background, and we went to Lutheran church.
So you decided you're going to go live there. Like
I did.
You basically gave up everything. You were like, I'm going to leave college. I'm going to leave everything. And I'm just going to go indefinitely to Haiti and live with these people.
I originally went there thinking I'll spend a summer.
Okay.
And I'll come back and I was transferring to Wheaton College at that time from U of M. I was going to be an ethnomusicologist, so different program there. It's within time to being a missionary, maybe.
Okay.
But
Everyone, what an ethnomusicologist is.
an ethnomusicologist, well, at least in that program, was to learn, you kind of become an expert on learning different musical languages. So you can go to a place, say you're a missionary in a village where they have a certain style of music, and instead of trying to import some kind of European hymns, you learn their musical style and you help to write in their musical language. So that's what I wanted to do. That was my plan. So I was going to go to Haiti for summer, come back to Wheaton and do that. But I went to Haiti, and I just had, once I moved there, I had such a sort of powerful experiences, but they were more like humiliating, humbling. Like I was realizing that I was a Christian by name. I was a Christian. Like I was doing a lot of things to try to be a good person and do the right thing. I read the Bible. I did all of that. But I felt like in my heart, I started realizing I was actually kind of dark inside. Like I was judgmental towards people. I just wasn't loving. I noticed myself that was just coming out, and I think God was just helping me see my soul. And then I got to a point where I just thought, I need something. I don't have love in my heart. And so I remember at one point I just came to God, confessed everything. I'm just like a whitewashed tomb, like the Pharisees in the Bible. All of a sudden, I just felt this sense of God's peace and presence just flowed into my heart. And I thought, Jesus forgave all my sins, and I think I need him to forgive me. I just started to trust in him for forgiveness. That had never been a piece of my life before, because I just thought, what do I really need forgiveness for? I'm being a good person. I'm doing everything right. I'm trying really hard. I don't need forgiveness. I'm not really a sinner. And all of a sudden, I just knew I was a sinner and I needed forgiveness. So that was really a big change for me. And I think I just, at that point, said, this is my home church. Like this is where I'm learning about God, and I need to just stay here. So I did. I just wrote to Wheat and said I wasn't coming. Wrote to my family, was like, I'm not coming home. And there was a coup like shortly before I went down there in Haiti. There was like all kinds of unrest, and my family was freaking out.
Oh, I'm sure.
And I just didn't.
Like, we think about it, this was letters that you were writing. So your mom probably didn't know how you were doing for maybe weeks or,
Oh, months and months. We would drive in every once in a while, maybe every 6 months, we could drive into a town somewhere, like an actual town with a payphone. And I would just stick as many quarters as I could, or call her collect or whatever and talk to her. But she didn't hear from me for so long. And she was like, she's on some weirdo compound, like country, and I didn't know the language. I had to learn the language while I was there and, learn all the Haitian ways, like how to cook and how to clean and bring water on your head up the hill and all those things. At one point she came to Haiti with my brother and tried to find me and rescue me and bring me home. And I remember that it was so traumatic for her. You don't think about your mom at all when you're that age. I was like 19 when I went down there, 19 or 20. And now I think if my kids ever did that to me, I would probably, who knows?
We've been down there, quote unquote, rescuing them like week 2.
Oh, yes,
right? We would have been like, no. We're coming for you. We're coming for you.
About that funny farm and come back home. Yeah.
Has your mom ever said, like in recent times, has she ever sort of reflected and said, that was really hard for me, or I really worried about you, or?
She's definitely told me that. I think she tries to, she's also a very kind, gentle person. I think she tries to avoid the subject a little bit too, like to not make me feel bad. But it was definitely hard for her. Everyone around her knew that it was hard for her. But anyway, I stayed there longer. And in that, I had just even more really beautiful experiences. I think the most difficult and beautiful experience I had is I got malaria, and it really made me sick. And there wasn't really medicine right there, So I got to where I just couldn't move, couldn't get off the bed. I had a super high fever. And in the middle of that somewhere, I was still kind of works oriented. I really felt like I needed to be doing something for God all the time. And I remember I opened my Bible somehow, just hanging over the bed, opening the Bible. And I was like, I need to study the Bible. Like I opened a page and I was like, I'm going to study work. For some reason, I went to the glossary in the back and I looked up the word work. And I wanted to look up all the passages that had to do with work. And the first one I got to was in John 6. And it was like, the disciples saying to Jesus, what do we need to do to work the works of God? And he said, believe in the one that I've sent. And I was like, that's me. I just believe it? Why do I? Like I wasn't really super happy.
Oh my gosh.
The answer to that. Yeah. I wanted to work.
It's so hard. Like with my Catholic upbringing too. Like, yeah, we work our way into good standing with God, right? I mean, like that is what we were raised to believe.
And it's hard to dislodge it from your heart, even though I had some experience with trusting God. But at that point, I was still very works-oriented. And the interesting thing is then for some reason, I felt like, I don't even know how it happened, but I ended up getting in this place of, I found the word rest instead of the word work. And I started glossary trying to find different words with rest. And I landed on these amazing, there was a passage in Hebrews that was like, and this is the Sabbath rest of God for his people. And I felt like somehow the Holy Spirit just poured into me. It's about resting and trusting what I've done for you. You don't need to be the one do. You need to just trust in what I've done for you. And so I did. And it was amazing. Like I just felt this peace and this amazing, I can't even really describe it, just presence of God. And then from that point on, it was just a different story for me, like being able to trust in God's grace instead of like wearing myself thin.
And isn't it interesting that the lesson was learned through something completely uncontrollable, like malaria, where you had no medicine, it's not like you had a mother to take care of you, to make sure your fever was coming down and make sure you were hydrated. And I mean, how horribly scary in the physical realm.
Right.
In the natural realm.
Yeah.
And yet God used that probably almost near death.
It may have been. And I do think at that point, I really had no, like you said, no motherly, I had no love, period, being shown to me. Like I remember feeling like someone once brought me a banana when I was there, and I was like, oh, someone loves me. Like at that point, I felt very unloved, I'd say, because I was so far away from anyone that really knew me well. I had a community around me, but to be a foreigner in that community, you really never feel a sense that you're completely, I don't know, loved or whatever. So it was a really tough, dark time. Malaria did it.
Wow.
The particular situation of being completely isolated of malaria was, for me, the best thing that ever happened to me and spiritually to help me find, trust in Christ. So
yeah. To this day, to this moment, I really never knew like a lot of this story. I thought you went to Haiti to be a missionary. And so here you are, sort of just living amongst the people in this village, in this Christian compound. And I mean, I'm not putting words in your mouth, but it doesn't sound like there was maybe a lot of love shown to you.
There really wasn't. So like, I think what I first saw in this Haitian community was, it was really religious. There was a ton of observance of, some great practices. And there were some beautiful, faithful people, like some of the people in the community I just loved. But I started to realize eventually, and I think after that experience, that there was a lot of legalism too, just a sense of, live by our rules, almost, it was a little cultish, I guess I'd say, where they felt like they were the only ones, like the right ones, they were doing everything right. And so it was a setup, there was a spiritually abusive atmosphere that I guess I really didn't realize until that point when my heart was sort of awakened to it. So after that malaria experience and discovering God, the pastor of the church started to recognize, oh, wow, what's going on with her? She seems really on fire for God. I was a musician helping with music and stuff. He was like, well, you want to write songs together? And I was really honored. The pastor finally showed me some attention and he wanted to write songs with me. We got kind of close because he would be worshiping, bringing me in and writing songs. So anyway, we spent some time together. And then I started realizing he wanted to spend more time with me. And this is like a 50-something-year-old. I was like 19, 20 at the time. He was 50-something. He was married. And so just one thing led to the next. He very much acted like he was being my spiritual mentor, drawing me close. Like this was a spiritual bond that he had with me that nobody else had. Because
that's what he was telling you.
Yes, that's what he was telling me, that we're, spiritually compatible and God really wants me to be your spiritual mentor or whatever. So I was like, oh, this is so cool. I've never had somebody do that for me before. And at one point he wanted me to go to Port-au-Prince with him. And I was like, oh, this is exciting. I get to go with my spiritual mentor to Port-au-Prince. And then we get there, he wants to get a hotel room. And that's when I realized he was trying to cheat on his wife with me. And it kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. And I ended up confessing that. Like, I thought it was my fault. I mean, I thought I had done something wrong, although I had zero clue that that's really what was going on. I told his wife about it, and she said I was a Jezebel. I was the evil, seductress or whatever. So the whole community kind of turned on me, and that was super hard.
And can I ask you, like, not that you have to go into details, but like, did anything physical happen between the two of you?
It started to, I don't know what kind of intervention, but like I think we were close to doing something that was pretty, yeah.
So, I mean, this is the unfortunate thing with an older man and a younger woman and being taken advantage of and the naivete and your pure heart. But like, how horrible that, I mean, those people should have really been watching out for you and protecting you and making sure that, number one, that trip never happened. But really way, way, way before that, putting protection in so that you weren't in those private situations with him.
Oh, absolutely. Right. And I had no idea he had marital issues this whole time. But I mean, of course, how would I ever know that? They presented like the perfect couple. And yeah, I think it's really having suffered spiritual abuse like that. I mean, not just it's one thing like sexual abuse. That's terrible. Spiritual abuse and sexual abuse, like on top of it, is such a it just throws your whole world upside down.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Because everything you trusted.
And here's this man that you looked up to in this whole community that you would feel like you should have been a part of, and they should have been protecting you, like as if you were their daughter. Like, there should have been other things that protected you.
Definitely. Yeah, it was really a super sad situation. And it helps me now to have I remember I got back to Michigan at one point. It was a long story on how it all devolved.
Basically, so they shunned you.
Right.
They acted like you were evil and a Jezebel, and you leave that compound, that community. And I mean, you probably didn't have any money.
I didn't have any money.
I mean,
no.
Depended on them for your
100%.
entire...
In fact, I'd given away all my money. Like, I had college tuition my grandparents had given me, and I was like, I'm just going to stay here the rest of my life, and I'm going to give all my money to the poor. I gave it all my college tuition to buy them like a sound system for their worship team. I was trying to help. And so I really had nothing at all. And when I went back to Michigan, I remember one thing, the crisis of faith, going like, okay, so my whole Christian community just disappointed me. So does that mean that what I learned about God during that time isn't true too? Was it all just a big farce? And it hit me like, no, the Bible's true.
Yeah.
My experiences with God are real. People disappoint. Like people are people. And sometimes we have really disappointing, even abusive experiences with Christians because they're broken people.
And how many people could tell a story, maybe not that exact story, maybe not that exact thing, but where a person in the church has hurt them, or people in the church have hurt them, or abused them, or, a Christian says or does this, and that turns them off to God. Pretty wonderful and beautiful and profound, that you didn't take that experience and completely turn away from God and completely turn away from any church setting. I mean, that's pretty amazing.
I just think that's a huge act of grace. Like, how did God just enfold me that way so I didn't just give up or walk away? And I mean, part of it is being raised with just a sense that I was always taught the Bible's true, God's real, God's with us. And it was like my foundation held me up a little bit. And also just, I think God just kind of swooped in and somehow guarded my heart against turning away. And the really cool thing is now I work for the Christian Reformed denomination as the candidacy director. And so what I do is oversee pathways to ministry. So all these people that are coming in, being trained for ministry, me and the candidacy committee kind of make decisions about who should be a candidate. With this background of knowing what spiritual abuse is, I feel like I'm extremely attuned to if someone has abusive patterns or is maybe demonstrating a character trait that I think could lead to being abusive, like we'll catch it, we'll handle it, talk with them. I mean, it's something that can't be resolved. We wouldn't approve them. So I feel like I get to play a role now in preventing people from being abused by being at this level going, no, we're not going to allow a narcissist to be a pastor. You're showing so much control and so much pride. Like until you can show us that that's not who you are, you're not going to be a minister in this church. And our denomination does a lot with safety like that, protecting people from being abused. And I'm so thankful for it.
Absolutely.
Because it's not right that someone should go to church and be spiritually abused.
Oh my gosh. What a beautiful full circle thing that God has done so that you are now protecting the future. Like, that's amazing.
It is. It's really a beautiful work of God. It's a God story in my life.
And you have come back to the denomination that you were sort of raised in your roots. I say that a weird way.
Is that a Hebrew way?
It's a Hebrew way. I get teased about it all the time because that's my roots.
It's okay. I talk like a West Michigander, so.
So here you are, and you now have almost grown, well, kind of grown children, and you're a mother and you're a wife, and obviously there are like many, many, many things in between. But I actually want to ask you, so before having this exact position where you were part of like the candidacy, you're the candidacy director.
It's the worst word in the world to say. I had to first learn to say candidacy before I could start doing it. Yeah.
But you were a female pastor.
Yeah.
And I know that for some Christians or humans, they think maybe that's kind of different for a woman to be a pastor. So tell me about that.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of different too. I remember one time saying I would never want to be. I saw a female pastor that was the pastor of a church, and her husband, I don't know what he did, but I was like, why is the woman pastor? That doesn't seem right. Her husband should be the pastor. I would never be a female pastor. I remember saying it specifically. So anyway, I was a music minister because after I got back I had all these experiences. I really just wanted to share the gospel with people. And I was trying to finish a music ed degree, but I just was like, I don't want to be a teacher. I really want to just do something in ministry. So I did worship ministry. And at some point, I did a little teaching because my pastor supported, like, you have kind of a teaching gift. You should do some teaching. So I did. And then a bunch of circumstances happened in that church. We were kind of thinking maybe God was calling us out. And there was this little church in New Mexico, a mostly Navajo church, that actually my great-grandfather had started back in like the early 1900s. I didn't really know that at the time, but my mom had moved there. So my stepdad was kind of an elder at the church, and nobody wanted to come out there to go to that church because it paid $18,000 a year with a parsonage. And I mean, no minister could afford to live on that. And we were just in a kind of an interesting spot, feeling transition. And he said, you know what? I was in the Assemblies of God at that time. You remember? Because we were both Assemblies of God. And he said, you should apply for this job. And I was like, I can't. Like, there's no way. I'm not even a pastor. I'm not Christian Reformed. I don't know, your theology.
Ernie, right?
Ernie, yep.
He encouraged you to apply?
He encouraged me to apply. I think he mostly just wanted me to because he wanted my mom to have me there. So, and other things. They were really desperate. And I thought, well, I don't know if I really know how to do this. I'm not sure, and why would anyone want to go to a church with a female pastor? It's really hard stuff. And so I thought, well, I'll just pray about it. And we did feel God leading us to go. My husband especially encouraged me and said, you're made for this. Like, this is what you do. You just pastor people all the time. You listen to people and you love to talk about the Bible, just do it. So we did. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I took the job. My husband decided to stay home with the kids so we could afford it just barely on food stamps to be here. It was a hard year.
Yeah, $18,000 a year for a family of 4.
Yes. And they gradually upped my pay because the church grew. They were like doing garage sales to stay open at that point. And I didn't know they were really thinking they would close and I would just come there to close it for them. They didn't tell me that. But they wanted their kids and grandkids back, and they let me make some changes and help them like move forward. And it actually was a really sweet church. But in the process, I think I was wrestling with just everything about ministry. I knew God had called me to do it, but I didn't really think of anything beyond that, except I just feel called to do this. I'm going to do it. So I was there for a while. I went through seminary while I was there because really Christian Reformed pastors are supposed to have seminary training. So I went to seminary.
Basically online, like while you were being
while
a
I was being a pastor. And it took
And
them a
a
while to
mom
convince
raising
me
a
to
kid.
go because I didn't want to, because I was like, I have two little kids and pastoring full time. I can't do that. And my church said, we'll give you 20 hours of your 40 hours to study. Just,
Wow.
you need to go do it. So I did and had a fantastic experience and learned so much about really what it is, how to teach, how to pastor, how to study the Bible in better ways, knowing the Hebrew and Greek and really exegeting it well. So glad I had gone. It was like a 5-year program.
Wow. That's a lot to navigate and manage. And, you and I earlier were talking about motherhood and both of our sort of like grieving hearts about not being able to be stay-at-home moms and not being able to raise our kid.
Yes, and I really wanted to raise my kids and be a stay-at-home mom for a while, but it just was not what God gave me. I mean, at the time when we moved down there, my husband had just hurt his back. He couldn't do a labor job, which is what he'd always done. And he didn't get to raise his first 2 kids. And it was almost like it was his dream come true to get to be a stay-at-home parent for our kids. So it looked really topsy-turvy to other people because they don't expect it. But it was the best thing for his soul. It was the best thing for me. I mean, I loved ministry. I was really passionate about my job. And we really lived right next door to the church. So it's not like I didn't see my kids. And I still feel guilty sometimes, like, oh, I did so much pastoring other people. What about my kids? And they'll say, Mom, you were there all the time. Like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, you came home every day and spent only time with us and did nothing else. I would leave everything at work, come home if I didn't have a council meeting or something, and just do nothing but play with them and make them dinner and, spend time with them. So I know that I wasn't as horrible a mom.
And I'm sure I wasn't.
I'm sure you were, because your kids love you and trust you and think you're fantastic.
But it is such a heart, battle. I think that we moms face. And yeah, I mean, I 100% feel like I was called to be a chiropractor and like this was my like mission on earth. And but like in that exact same moment, if I could have done everything and anything, I would have wanted to be home with them. But like we talked about, perhaps it was for the better. Perhaps we're like a category of mom who
they need some distance from their kids and they're going to smother them to death.
overly mother.
Yeah.
We're like mother supercharged.
That's right. We are super moms. If we were left alone in a house with just our kid, they would be like over scheduled, over perfect.
We would
be ridiculous.
Mothered them into gene kits. And everything they didn't want to do.
They would be eating all natural foods, never a sweet.
Doing yoga, Pilates, like.
It basically describes my sister-in-law, but not me.
Yeah.
But fortunately, my husband, who wouldn't let them play video games and be normal children, did more of that stay-home stuff than I did. So.
And isn't it so interesting, like if we talk about our personality types and our spouses' personalities and, opposites do attract. And it's hard to give up the control, isn't it? Right? Yeah. It's hard to say, you should do it like you should do it like I would do it. I mean, that's hard maritally.
Yes. If you have really high standards for yourself, which I do, you do. I mean, we tend to be go-getters. We tend to be top of our class. And maybe do a little bit extreme good on things. Then to be married and let somebody be themselves and not expect the same thing out of them that you expect out of yourself, or maybe even give yourself some slack and realize that it's not super healthy to be the way you are. I think I've had a really, Mike has been like the best thing that ever happened to me because of the mercy and grace that he's taught me and the sense of like, be a person. You don't have to be a super person. You can just be a person. And it's fun sometimes just to do nothing or just to goof around and just laugh or whatever. You don't have to be always on task, always succeeding. thing. So, and letting him be him and not expecting him to be me has been the most healing and growing, stretching part of our marriage. I'm becoming a little more like him and he's becoming a little more like me after 25 years.
I think it's lovely to see. And I think it's lovely that Mike did have the lack of ego to allow you to sort of be the pastor and be the breadwinner. A lot of men wouldn't have been able to do that, stay in the background.
And other men haven't always made it easy on him because men will always ask him questions like, oh, you let your wife wear the pants in the family? Things like that. And he's like, no, she does what she loves and I do what I love. And it's not about us, who's over who and who's submitting to who. Like, we're supposed to submit to each other out of love. That's what the Bible says. And I have a sense that my husband is the head of our family, but head of our family in ways that are fitting to his personality and character and not according to gender stereotype. Like, all men should be this and should be this and should be this. I don't even believe that at all anymore. I think all men should be whatever God designed them individually to be, and all women should be whatever God designed them to be. And I think the church has really hurt people through gender stereotyping, made women feel like they're not good enough because if they're not doing the perfect stay-home mom thing or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And men don't feel good enough if they're not the perfect provider or the perfect protector or whatever. And I mean, we're different. There's things about our gender that will cause us to act like he is a protector. I have all kinds of stories of him protecting me. And so he's definitely a protector, but he doesn't have to do it the way everyone else does it. He does it in his own way. So
I absolutely love this. And I absolutely think it is so cool because people might even think that the denomination that you're in is very traditional and that maybe Christians in general are very traditional. But like, I think it's so beautiful that you can sort of describe this relationship and this dynamic, and we don't have to follow those quote unquote like traditional stereotypical roles. I think it's amazing.
I think that a lot of people think of ministry in terms of power. And so one of the things that makes them most uncomfortable about women in leadership in church is they think, well, first of all, they misunderstand the Hebrew and Greek. And I think they misunderstand the Bible. There's certain texts that if you take them out of context and you just look at them just like that, it really sounds like the Apostle Paul is saying women shouldn't be leaders in the church or they shouldn't have any authority over men. The words actually, the man and husband, woman and wife are the same in the Greek. So there's no way of knowing actually. I mean, the translator said men and women, but it's probably he's referring more to the husband-wife relationship and that dynamic of keeping some kind of headship. So, and also the Apostle Paul used women in ministry all the time. So there's no way that means that, because he's not going to say one thing and make this universal law and then act differently and use women as deacons and apostles. I mean, he sent women out. He talked about Junia, and lots of fellow servants in the Lord were women. So clearly he didn't really mean that. In my understanding of it, this is what our denomination wrestled with back in the 90s when they decided to ordain women. Because we are a very conservative, theologically conservative denomination. We hold scripture as high. We have a really high view of scripture. And if you can't support it with scripture, you shouldn't do it, is how we feel. We feel like the Bible is the authority. So we wrestled with it for 20, 30 years as study committees before we made that decision. And when they did decide, it was because they really were convinced that the Bible supports women in ministry. But because there were some that still didn't believe that, we were kind of divided at the time. They adopted a position that both of those views can be scripturally backed. And because people are intending to follow scripture with all their hearts, but they both came to different conclusions, they would just accept both of them as valid and say, let's just agree to disagree on this and stay together. And that's what we've done. And it's a little uncomfortable for the women who are ordained because they have to live with the fact that some people don't necessarily approve of them. But it's just uncomfortable for women ordained in the world because it's such a strange thing to people to have a female pastor.
It's probably very unique in most Christian denominations, wouldn't you say?
Oh, I think so. I think there's a few that maybe more of the mainline churches that ordain women. Assemblies of God was started by a woman. So they ordain women, but in practice, you don't see a lot of ordained women.
Yeah.
It goes against the cultural grain. It's hard. I don't know. Not most women feel called to do that.
I'm just like, I think it's quite amazing. I think I just want to applaud you, and I just want to, give you an accolade saying that you've done a really cool, amazing thing. Like in our culture, in our world, like, bravo, Susan, bravo.
It never felt amazing. It felt like, oh, well, I guess I'll do it. I don't know. I mean, I feel called to do it. It was just one thing at a time. And really, if you just keep serving. I mean, my philosophy of leadership is servant leadership. You're serving and supporting. And no one has a problem with women serving and supporting in the church.
In any other role.
They do everything, literally everything in the church, and some are be pastors. So, like, to say now suddenly you can't serve and support and do everything else, but don't lead. Why? Because, I mean, it's all the same. I'm just continuing to serve and support in a different role. So,
and I think that's what's so beautiful, because you do have a servant's heart, and it isn't about your ego, and it isn't about power. And I think that's the unfortunate thing. Sometimes with the head of any organization, whether it's a church, a business, a school, our ego, and that sometimes creeps up and becomes such an issue. Like if we all did in any role that we have, if our heart was really to be a servant, I mean, what an amazing world we would live in.
Oh, and can you imagine the church if that was, I mean, I think because men have such a need to prove themselves in terms of power and authority, I think that there's more issues with power and authority and maybe abuse of it or misunderstandings of it in the church than there would be if there was more women to kind of counterbalance. Because women just have we think differently about that. We generally don't care as much about being seen as an authority or a power figure. And so we serve differently. So I've served before with a co-pastor with a man, and it was kind of a cool dynamic. Like we rounded each other out really well. Things that were natural to him that maybe weren't great, I rounded him out, and things that maybe were not my strong point, he would be strong in that area. And I just think it's really beautiful to have men and women co-leading together.
Exactly. Amazing. Well, I think this might be a wonderful place to pause for the day. And the next time Susan and I talk, we will definitively be talking about, is she a liar, or does she?
I love that. Are my stories true, or are they so weird? But they have to be lies.
Susan told us just 1/100th of her life story, and we have a lot more to delve into. So we'll pick it up again.
That sounds good. Sounds like fun.
Thank you for being here with me today.
Thank you. It was great to be here.